All right, we're rolling. All right, guys. This is Gustavo, Adolfo Uribe. Welcome to my channel. I have a lot of videos on music production and stuff like that. But there's so much political stuff going on right now that I just have to speak up, and I have to get things that was been in my chest for a really, really, really long time. And I'm 33 years old, so I don't know. I'm just thinking a lot about life, like where I want to go and blah blah blah. I've always had like large goals and I've always been ambitious, but it's just like it's come to a point where it's just like, like what's how am I gonna proceed on with my life getting older? I've been really contemplating like if I want to stay in America, if I want to go to Mexico. I've been really thinking about that lately. And I'm going to tell you some shit that you don't want to hear. And this is my MEXIT red pill story. Um, so it's just some background stuff and, what I think that needs to be heard, okay? So first off, I'm just letting you know I was born in Santa Barbara, California, and I'm a dual citizen. So I'm American, and I got my Mexican citizenship because my dad is Mexican. My mom was born in the States, but her family's from Mexico. So both families are from Jalisco, close to Guadalajara, pretty much on both sides. And yeah, so just to prove extra proof, bro, here's my hot sauce, bro. I always have that shit on deck. So all you haters, bro, that say I'm not Mexican enough, fuck you, okay? Yeah, I said it. Okay, so let's get to the point. I've been working since I was a little kid. My dad is working as a gardener, right? He came to this country. I have family members who came to this country legally and came to this country illegally and then later got their papers. So I know the business. Um, Now most of my family's been really hardworking, and my dad just like most Mexicans, they just come here, they do gardening. You know what I'm saying? At least the males, and then the women do housemaids, housekeeper stuff. My grandmother was a housekeeper for a long time. And anyways, I remember I was working with my dad, um, helping him out with the gardening stuff. Then he worked at a school, and I used to come over to the school and work a little bit and blah blah blah. And then I actually started working, getting paid, going to jobs with him, stuff like that. And then my first job, official job with the official paycheck, not under the table. I worked at McDonald's. I was 15 and a half. I walked into the McDonald's. I wanted to get some money, and I got hired right there. Boom. And when I was at McDonald's, they put me in the front in the cashier, and they had all these illegals, pretty much working in like doing the cleanup stuff, right? So we all got minimum wage, but I was the one in the front doing the cashier stuff, like the hardest work, right? And if you think fast food is an easy job or whatever, then I don't think you've worked at McDonald's before, bro, because it was honestly one of the hardest jobs I've ever had. Because they had a bunch of managers, you had to deal with these customers. Sometimes they got crazy on you, and then you had to jump around and do all the kinds of stuff. You had to get the sack of French fries in the freezer, go downstairs, get that shit. Then you got to learn how to do, McFlurries and all this other crap that they had. You never know. There's always a different special, and then you got to learn this keyboard pad with like 1,000 buttons. So it was hard, bro. It was hard, and to this day, that job prepared me to like any job I have. It's like whatever, dude. I'm gonna be okay. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, but they even told me they were illegal, man, and they'll be sending money back home, right? Like most illegals do. Um, yeah. So that was kind of an eye opener because I spoke English well, so they put me in the front, right? and I was making the same amount of minimum wage. And I remember I was working there for about like 6 months or whatever, and I got good reviews. And my manager told me, "Okay, Gustavo, we have good news. We have good news." And then we're doing the reviews and shit. And she's like, "We're gonna give you a raise." And I was like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna get a raise." So they raised me. I don't remember exactly how much because it was a while ago, but I think it was like, shoot, I think it was either 12.25, and they raised me 12.75. I think it was something like that. She's like, "We're gonna give you 50 cent raise," and I was like, "Oh, cool, cool." No, man, it wasn't a 50 cent raise. It was they raised the minimum wage. They raised the minimum wage, and that was my raise. So just think about that. Just think about that shit. They raised the minimum wage. That was my raise. Okay. So did I really get a raise? No, because the minimum wage raise. So everybody's making that, and if you know anything about economics, then everything goes up. You know what I'm saying? Um, it causes inflation. So, anyways, now the funny thing is, my mother also worked at McDonald's when she was a kid, or around the same age, right? High school, young age, right? And she told me that when she used to work there, it was mostly high school kids, right? It was mostly high school kids. So when I talked to her about it, we were kind of, exchanging notes. And then it was funny, is like, I remember I went to this basketball McDonald's tournament. It was kind of like a fun thing, with different McDonald's staff playing basketball. And we went to it, and then she said, "Oh man, I still see like some managers still working there when I was working there," which was kind of interesting. But that was a side note. And so, anyways, it's really interesting that like in 20-ish years, I guess, how that changed. Now, if you go to In and Out, they're mostly high school kids or college kids, and I don't think they have illegals working there, not to my knowledge. But McDonald's, they usually was, and then the other fast food restaurants, it was always like, "Welcome to Jack in the Box, may I take your order?" It was usually like Hispanic, at least in Southern California where I lived. So, anyways, um, going on to the next point. Um, where was I going with this? This is a rant, by the way, so I'm ranting. Um, where am I going with this? Okay, so the point I want to make is that when you look at where our people are, like as Mexican Americans, right? At least in Southern California, it's mostly agriculture work or housekeeping work, right? And just a side note too, I remember my grandmother, and I used to go with her as a little kid to little jobs, under the table jobs, whatever, because she used to work as a housekeeping manager at a hotel, um, and I remember she told my mom, and my mom told me that they got together when they were working. They got together. They kind of like an unofficial union. So like the housekeeping, like they would work on the hotels, and they would do side jobs, right? Side jobs under the table. And I remember she told me that they kind of got a rate, right? Let's say it was $15 an hour, just for the example, because I don't remember the exact numbers. And one day she goes to the work, or she gets a phone call, and she no longer she got fired. It's like, "Well, hey, well, like, what happened? Like, I thought, like, what's going on?" She's like, "Oh no, it's okay. I got it someone else. Blah blah blah." So she was taking the bus, and she started talking to this other Hispanic woman. The Hispanic woman told her, "Oh, I'm so excited. I just got into this country illegally, and I got a job like housekeeping, and I just put posters up or whatever, uh, and then she started to talk to her, and she later found out that this person started working where she was working, so she took her job, okay? And she's like, "What?" And she's like, "Oh, how much are you charging?" Blah blah blah. Basically, she was charging half or three, or and my grandmother got was really upset because she spent so much time, and she was legal, by the way, she came here legally, so much time and establishing that network and unofficial union with other housekeepers to set those rates. And all of a sudden, you got this illegal boom, crack, and destroyed everything, what they built. How are they going to compete with someone who's charging half less, right? So they're taking our jobs. That's actually true. That's actually true. So, anyways, going back to the overview is like when you look at our people, Hispanic people, Mexicans or whatever in America, it's usually their housekeeping or their agriculture. Um, that's like the gateway or the entryway or something like that. And I think once they get like more situated, business owners or whatever, maybe restaurants, business, stuff like that. But you don't see like other cultures like Asians or Indians or maybe I don't know whatever. They usually or Koreans, like they usually have like certain types of businesses that they go into, but they usually tend to um, be somewhat, in my opinion, more financially successful when they immigrate to this country. It's usually like small business owners or doctors or lawyers or computers, people. So, anyways, that's just what I see observation wise. And then like what else happens? You see a lot of like Hispanic, like the low classes like get gangs and drugs and this kind of stuff. At least when I was growing up, like I was born in '85, so I grew up like throughout that crazy Crips and Bloods and where if you wore a Raiders jacket, you'd get beat up or shot. Like I grew up in that, so I know what I'm talking about. Um, so anyway, so now to get to the next point is that um, it comes to a point, dude, where like, and going back to this Mexit movement of stepping away from the Democratic Party, I think we got to be honest with ourselves as Americans. If you're either born in Mexico and now American citizen, or you're about to get your papers or whatever, I think we have to really be honest with ourselves and say this illegal immigration is a problem and it's not helping us, the American citizens, when we're here legally. Um, it's just we gotta stop supporting that. You know, we gotta start supporting bringing other relatives in illegally or sponsoring or whatever. Or if you're we just gotta like put a stop on that and be real with ourselves because I know that as family members we want to help the other family member cross get over here or whatever, but if it's illegally, I think I don't think it's helping us in America. You know, and if you think about it, like when the illegals come here, they're either they're sending money back home, right? B, they're gonna get some government handouts, right? That as American citizens we make too much money. We're not poor enough to get those benefits, which really sucks. And then C, they may stay or they may leave, right? So like, what happens if like they come to this country, they get their money, they're send it back, and then they leave in 5 years? Well, great, because that could have been that what that's happening is it's they're taking our jobs. Yeah, they're taking our jobs. They're making that so when other businesses they hire these illegals and they're taking advantage of them, right? And giving them lower wages, and that's driving down the market for those jobs. That's just keeping it real. So if they're paying less and those people may or may not be paying taxes. They may be being paid under the table. That money's not getting recycled back to the communities, right? Because if you think about it, if you live in a community and you're paying uh, you know uh, taxes, it should go back to the community. Um, house real estate taxes and blah 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 blah. Um, we have to think that like every time you spend money or do some type of transaction, there's a tax on that, right? So if the government's not able to tax that, then it's not going to get recycled, because it should be spent on things that benefit us, right? But then, so like what happens if you're American, you're paying taxes, and then this other guy, he's not paying taxes, but then those government programs are subsidizing him being here or he or she being here. Is that fair for the American person? No, it's not. So that's my whole point with this video, is that we gotta take a hard look in the mirror and say, look, we got an immigration problem. Not only is it the illegal immigrants, of course, there's drugs and the violence and all that stuff, which is a whole nother can of worms. But uh, yeah, so we got to look at that and say, and I love my people or whatever, but we got to keep it real, man. We got to keep it real. And then so these Democrats and their campaigns and blah blah blah, it's like they're like preying on us, right? Just to get these votes. They're like, oh well, turning away these illegals is immoral and blah 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 and blah blah blah. You know what? It's not. It's not. It's the right thing to do. It's been a big problem for a long time, and we got to stand up and say, hey, you know what? We're not going to support this anymore. We got to fix this problem instead of putting band-aids. You know what I'm saying? And if we're going to, MEXIT, we got to MEXIT the right way. The right way. So that's my point. So if you agree with me on this video or you don't agree with me on this video, put in the comments. Let's have a discussion. I think this is really important as a people, as American citizens, to talk about this, and keep it real. Okay. So thanks for watching. If you want to see more political videos, then please subscribe and comment and give me some feedback. And I'll make more as I get more feedback. All right. Cool. Thanks.